All right, so today we're diving into something that's been causing a stir in the AI world, DeepSeek. And, you know, you know me, I love a good underdog story.
Yeah.
This is a Chinese AI startup that's really been grabbing attention. The reason everyone's so intrigued is they're claiming to be getting results comparable to the giants, like OpenAI,
Yeah.
but using way, way fewer resources,
Mm.
which is, that's a bold claim, right? So today, on this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack that. Is DeepSeek just hype, or are they really onto something that could be a real game changer for AI?
Well, what's really interesting about DeepSeek is that they're really kind of challenging this prevailing assumption in AI that bigger is always better.
Yeah.
And their whole approach is about maximizing efficiency. And they've got these two models, DeepSeek R1 and DeepSeek V3, that really showcase this approach.
Okay, let's break those down. Let's start with DeepSeek R1. Now, from what I've read, this model is all about reasoning. What makes that different from other AI models out there?
Well, most AI models use something called supervised learning, where they're trained on these, massive data sets of labeled information. DeepSeek R1, though, takes a different approach. They use something called reinforcement learning. Think about it kind of like, teaching a dog a new trick. You reward them when they get it right, and over time, they learn through, trial and error.
Oh, so instead of just feeding it tons of data, it's kind of learning by doing and
Yeah.
figuring stuff out on its own.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is this lets R1 tackle tasks that normally need, human-level reasoning, like coding or solving really complex logic puzzles, even, like designing software architecture.
They actually put this to the test, right?
Yeah. They tested R1 on something called the AAE Math Benchmark, which is, it's designed to challenge gifted high school students. And it achieved a 71% pass rate on the first try. And get this, with a little help from something called majority voting, the score jumped up to 86.7%. Which, to put that in perspective, that puts it in the same league as some of the top human performers.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. Okay, so now I understand there are two versions of R1, R10 and GEL. I guess just plain R1. What's the difference?
So R10 is all about, that pure reinforcement learning we were talking about. It starts with absolutely no initial data, and it learns everything completely from scratch. It's really, it's remarkable to watch it,
Yeah.
kind of develop these complex reasoning abilities purely through, this trial and error.
So R10 is like the ultimate self-learner. What about regular R1?
So R1 builds on that foundation of R10, but it does incorporate a little bit of starting data and a bit more of a structured training process. And that helps, improve its readability and make the output a little bit more consistent, which is really important, when you want humans to be able to actually understand it and work with it effectively.
So it's kind of like they're taking that raw power of R10,
Yeah.
refining it a bit for, more practical uses.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the other model, DeepSeek V3. This one is a massive language model, right?
It is. It is. It's a real beast in terms of its size. DeepSeek V3 has a staggering 671 billion parameters. Now, to understand what that means, think of parameters as kind of the knobs and dials that control how an AI learns. The more parameters, the more complex and capable the model can be.
Right. But here's what really caught my eye, and I'm guessing it caught yours too. Despite its size, V3 uses a lot less computing power than its rivals, both for training it and actually running it. So how are they doing that?
Well, that's where their real ingenuity comes in. They're using a clever architecture called Mixture of Experts, or MOE, and they're combining that with a technique called FP8 training. Now, imagine you have a team of experts, each one specializing in, a specific field.
So instead of one like super generalist, you got a team with diverse expertise.
Exactly. That's essentially what MOE does. It divides the model into these specialized experts, and only the relevant experts are activated for a given task, which makes it incredibly efficient without sacrificing performance.
Oh, so they're basically streamlining the whole process by only using the brain power that's actually needed for each task. What about FP8 training? How does that factor into the efficiency?
Well, FP8 training basically involves using a much more compact way to represent numbers within the model. Kind of like, instead of using a full dictionary to explain every word, you're using a more condensed version that still gets the meaning across.
They're making the information storage and processing more efficient.
Yeah.
Without actually, losing the essential meaning. Okay, so this level of efficiency has to have major implications, right?
Yeah.
What does this mean for the companies like, Nvidia, the ones that are supplying the GPUs, the powerful and expensive GPUs that are fueling AI?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. DeepSeek V3 was trained on 2,048 Nvidia H100 GPUs over 53 days, and that cost them about $5.58 million. Now, Compare that to Meta's Llama 3, which needed 30.8 million GPU hours on 16,384 H100 GPUs to train. The difference in cost and resources.
Pretty huge. That's incredible. So if DeepSeek's approach starts to catch on, could we actually see a decrease in demand for these high-powered GPUs? I mean, if you can get comparable results with,
Yeah.
fraction of the resources.
It's certainly a possibility, and I think Nvidia is definitely taking notice. But we also have to keep in mind, AI adoption is just exploding across every industry.
Right. So even if the individual models become more efficient, the sheer volume of AI applications could still, you know, keep that demand high.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're using less fuel per car,
Mm.
but there are way more cars on the road.
I like that analogy.
Mm.
This also opens up another really interesting possibility, right? Like a shift towards more diverse hardware solutions. DeepSeek isn't tied exclusively to Nvidia, and we're already seeing companies like, our AMD stepping up to support their models.
That's right, and that could really shake things up.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about another aspect of DeepSeek that's making waves. Their commitment to open source. This is a big difference from some of the more, closed-off approaches we've seen from other AI developers.
Absolutely, and that open source approach is a key part of what makes DeepSeek so fascinating. By making their models and their research freely available to the community, they're really fostering a culture of collaboration and transparency.
It's like they're saying, hey, everyone come in and let's build something amazing together.
Yeah.
What kind of implications does that have for innovation in the field?
It's huge. When you remove those barriers to entry, it allows for a much wider range of, perspectives and ideas to contribute to AI development. And that can lead to faster progress, more creative solutions, and ultimately a less centralized AI landscape.
And for you, the listener, this means more transparency, more diversity of thought, and ultimately more potential for AI to benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, now let's talk about the potential impact DeepSeek might have on some of the big players in the AI world, specifically Nvidia, which we've already touched on, and Google, which is a giant in both software and research. Right. These are the companies that have really dominated the AI landscape for so long. So it's natural to wonder how they'll respond to a disruptor like DeepSeek.
Right. We talked about the potential impact on Nvidia.
Yeah.
But what about Google? I mean, how might they react to a competitor achieving comparable results, but with a fraction of the resources?
Yeah, Google has poured, an immense amount of resources into their AI development. So I think DeepSeek's approach is definitely on their radar. If you can get similar outcomes with less, that really changes the whole cost-benefit analysis.
For sure.
Yeah, Google has a massive and very diverse AI ecosystem, so they're not going to be, easily dethroned. But I think DeepSeek's emergence definitely adds a new layer of competition, and it might force them to reevaluate some of their strategies, particularly around efficiency and resource allocation.
It's going to be fascinating to see how all of this plays out. Is DeepSeek just, a blip on the radar, or are they the start of a major shift in how we approach AI development?
Well,
it's too early to say for sure, but DeepSeek is definitely a force to be reckoned with. They've challenged the status quo, demonstrated the power of efficiency, and championed, that open source philosophy.
And for those of you listening who are just starting to explore AI, this is a perfect example of just how fast things are changing. What seemed like an established order just a few months ago is already being challenged by these innovative newcomers. So stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve even deeper into the potential implications of DeepSeek's approach.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It is. It is. All right, we'll be back. Okay, so we've really kind of explored what makes DeepSeek unique. That focus on efficiency, their innovative models, and of course, their commitment to open source. But the big question is, what does this actually mean for the future of AI? Like, are we really on the verge of a major transformation here? Well, I think DeepSeek's emergence really highlights some of the key trends that are shaping the future of AI development. It's not just about building bigger and bigger models anymore. It's about doing more with less. Efficiency is becoming absolutely paramount.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing that shift towards sustainable practices in other industries, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about brute force anymore.
Right.
It's about being smarter with our resources.
Exactly. And this focus on efficiency, it could completely reshape the AI landscape. I mean, if you don't need, these massive data centers and billions of dollars to develop cutting-edge AI. That lowers the barrier to entry for new players and new ideas.
Yeah, that's a really exciting prospect. Imagine a world where, Smaller companies, startups, even individual researchers
Yeah.
can actually compete with the big tech giants.
Right.
It could lead to a much more diverse and innovative AI ecosystem.
Absolutely. We could see a wider range of AI models and approaches emerge, each with its own strengths and applications.
Mm.
Instead of, just a few dominant players dictating a direction of the whole field, we could have like a vibrant marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, and that diversity of thought it's crucial for any field, but especially one as impactful as AI, right?
Yeah.
It lets us explore different possibilities, challenge assumptions,
Yeah.
and ultimately create AI that, better serves the needs of humanity.
Couldn't agree more. And this actually ties into that third major trend that DeepSeek really exemplifies, which is collaboration.
Yeah.
Their commitment to open source. It fosters a much more collaborative environment where researchers and developers can really build on each other's work.
Yeah, I love that analogy of,
Yeah.
throwing open the doors to the AI playground. It really captures the spirit of open source, right? It's about sharing knowledge, accelerating progress,
Yeah,
and creating a more inclusive AI community.
precisely. And for you, the listener, this means,
Mhm.
a faster evolution of AI technology and potentially even more groundbreaking applications that benefit everyone.
So I guess if we kind of step back and look at the big picture here, DeepSeek's story is about more than just, one company. It's about a potential paradigm shift in how we approach AI development as a whole.
It is. It's a shift towards efficiency, diversity, and collaboration. The three key ingredients for a future where AI can really reach its full potential.
But, as with any major technological advancement, there are also potential challenges and risks that we need to
Though,
consider.
of course, with any disruptive technology, there are always going to be growing pains. One concern is, the potential for job displacement. As AI becomes more capable and efficient, it's inevitable that some tasks that are currently performed by humans will become automated.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and it's
Yeah.
something that, we need to be prepared for. It really underscores the importance of investing in education and retraining programs to help people adapt to that changing job market.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive in equipping people with the skills they need to thrive in an AI-driven world. And it's not just about, technical skills. It's also about critical thinking, creativity, adaptability, those uniquely human qualities. They're going to become even more valuable in the future.
Another challenge that we need to think about is the potential for misuse of AI. As these technologies become more powerful and more accessible, it's really crucial to make sure they're being used responsibly and ethically.
I completely agree. We need to establish, clear ethical guidelines, robust safety mechanisms, and, strong regulations to prevent AI from being used for harmful purposes. This is something that really requires collaboration between governments, industry leaders, researchers, and the public.
Yeah, it's a collective responsibility.
Right.
We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI and making sure it's used for good. But let's not lose sight of the incredible potential of this technology, right? I mean, AI has the power to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges, climate change, disease, poverty.
It really does. It's what makes this such an exciting time to be involved in the AI space. We're at this pivotal moment where we can actually shape the trajectory of this technology and use it to create a better future for everyone.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. DeepSeek's focus on efficiency has really raised a lot of eyebrows. I mean, they've proven you can get amazing results without, breaking the bank on computing power.
Right. Their approach has challenged the status quo, and it's made people wonder if, this relentless pursuit of bigger models is really the best path forward.
So here's the question. Could this spark a broader shift in the entire AI industry towards more sustainable and accessible AI development? Will we see a future where the focus is on, maximizing the impact of AI while also minimizing its environmental footprint?
You're right. And the economic barriers to entry.
It's a question worth pondering. And
Yeah.
DeepSeek has certainly made a very compelling case for this approach. Only time will tell if their story really marks a turning point in the evolution of AI. But they've definitely injected a fresh perspective into the conversation.
And for our listeners, this is an invitation to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged with this ever-evolving world of AI. The future is being shaped right now, and your voice matters. We'll be back in the next part of our deep dive to explore some even more intriguing questions and possibilities. We've talked about a lot in this deep dive into DeepSeek. They're innovative models that focus on efficiency and, of course, all the potential implications for the future of AI. But as we wrap things up, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. Like, there's so much more to explore here. Oh, absolutely. DeepSeek's story, it's really opened up this Pandora's box of questions and possibilities. It's like they've thrown a stone into the AI pond and the ripples are just spreading out everywhere.
I love that analogy. So let's ride those ripples a bit.
Yeah.
And delve into some of the more, specific questions, maybe even a little speculative, that DeepSeek's approach raises, for instance. We talked about their R1 model and its focus on reasoning. How do you think this emphasis on reasoning is going to shape the development of AI?
Yeah.
That can actually understand and interact with the world in a more, human-like way.
Well, that's a question that has, researchers, philosophers, everyone buzzing with a mix of excitement and maybe a little apprehension. Imagine AI that can not only, solve these complex problems, but also explain its thought process in a way that we humans can understand.
It'd be like having an AI colleague, someone you can brainstorm with, bounce ideas off of, really learn from.
Exactly. It could completely revolutionize things like scientific research, education, even creative problem solving. Imagine having an AI partner. That can help you, unravel the mysteries of the universe or compose a symphony.
Okay. Now, on a slightly different note, we also talked about DeepSeek's open source commitment and how that might change the balance of power in AI. Do you really think we're moving towards a more level playing field where smaller companies and independent researchers can actually compete with the big tech companies?
It's definitely a possibility. Open source has that power to democratize access to AI technology and foster a much more collaborative, less centralized AI landscape. But we have to acknowledge open source also comes with its own challenges.
Right, like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Exactly. One concern is the potential for misuse. If these powerful AI models are available to anyone, it increases the risk of them falling into the wrong hands.
So it sounds like while open source can really accelerate progress and help level the playing field, we also need to be mindful of those risks and work to mitigate them through, responsible development and deployment.
Absolutely. It's about striking that balance between fostering innovation and ensuring, safety and ethical use. It's tough. But it's a challenge we have to face if we really want to harness the full potential of AI for good.
Okay, so before we completely wrap up this deep dive, let's think about the economic side of things for a minute. If DeepSeek's model of, efficient AI development really takes off and others start following their lead, could that actually lead to a decrease in the overall cost of AI?
That's a great question. If we can get comparable or even better AI capabilities, but with way fewer resources, it makes sense that the cost of developing and using AI would go down.
And if that happens, that would be a game changer, right? Imagine AI being accessible to not just big tech and governments, but businesses and organizations of all sizes.
Right. Could unleash this whole new wave of innovation and applications, driving economic growth and, societal progress in ways we can't even imagine yet. But
of course,
we have to consider the potential downsides too. This kind of shift could disrupt existing industries and potentially lead to job losses in some areas.
Yeah, it's important to remember, with any new technology, we have to approach it with a balanced perspective, recognizing both the opportunities and the challenges. It's a reminder that, we as a society, we need to be actively involved in shaping the future of AI. It's not something that's just happening to us. It's something we're all creating together.
Well said. This deep dive into DeepSeek, it's really been this fascinating look at one piece of a much bigger and, constantly evolving puzzle. As AI continues to advance, we need to stay informed, stay engaged, and be ready to adapt.
So as you continue exploring the world of AI, remember to keep asking those questions, keep challenging assumptions, and keep seeking out those diverse perspectives.
The future of AI really depends on our collective wisdom, creativity, and responsibility. Let's use this knowledge to build a future where AI benefits all of humanity.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the depths of DeepSeek and the always evolving world of AI. We hope you enjoy the journey.
Yeah, me too.
Until next time, keep learning, keep innovating, and keep diving deep.